Nail, have you met people that are good at spending, but they're not good at saving?
Yes, I'm one of those.
Okay.
I'm
Or
one
you
of
were
those.
one of those. Okay.
I was one of those.
And have you met people who are good at saving, but they're not very good at spending?
Yes.
We must have both. If you want to have strong finances, you must have two money tools. You must be able to spend and you must be able to save. It kind of reminds me of healthy eating habits. If you want to have healthy eating habits, you must be able to eat and you must be able to resist overeating.
Yeah.
What's the consequences if a person cannot resist overeating?
Weight gain and obesity.
Weight gain, obesity, health problems, and so forth. And what's a good way to get out of that? You go on a diet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm on a diet.
what if a person is good at resisting overeating, but they're not good at eating in general?
Oh, anorexia.
Yeah, they can develop
Or
really
being thin and all those
Yeah,
ways.
they can have eating disorders like anorexia nervosa and so forth. But also they lose out on optimal nutrition. They might be low on energy. Their immune system might be low as well. So in order to have healthy eating habits, you must be able to eat as well as to avoid overeating.
Yeah.
Same thing with finances. The two money tools you must have is you must be able to spend and also to save. Now, what's the consequences if a person cannot save?
If the person cannot save, they will usually get in trouble because if, for example, an emergency comes, let's say, for example, a sickness or anything, medical bills go up. Let's say $1,000 just comes and you do not save, you're in trouble. There's an article that it said that a typical American, if you put them in $1,000 debt, is going to be very stressful and difficult to get out of. So,
and oftentimes people go into debt. They're more prone to bankruptcy and so forth. And you and I saw an economist talk that 40% of Americans cannot handle an unexpected expense of $400. $400. And that's really sad. So a person must be able to save. Now, there are some good financial exercises that a person can do to motivate them to save. And do you remember what at least one of them is?
Budgeting.
Yeah, budgeting. What's a budget, or what's budgeting?
Budget is keeping track of your expenses and income so that you can be able to adjust and make good decisions with your finances.
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good message on that.
You have a video like
speak
that.
on that is a few videos ago. Another good exercise is to calculate your net worth. And I plan on talking about that in the future. It's your first step in planning your retirement is to calculate your net worth. So those two exercises can help motivate a person into saving. Okay. Now, let's say a person can save, but they're not very good at spending. Now, that sounds kind of unusual, but it is fairly common. And oftentimes it's associated with a person who has saved up, who has acquired wealth. They don't want to part with that. They don't want to touch that at all.
It can never be me.
And a lot of people might consider that person as a tightwad or cheap or so forth. But it can bite a person because if they're not willing to spend on themselves, they're not being optimal with their wealth. If you have a bunch of stuff that's breaking down, obviously you want to maybe buy a new object from time to time. If your car is constantly breaking down and it's constantly going to the shop, that's going to cost you a lot of money. But also it might cause you, if you don't get a new car, it might cause you to miss work. It might cause you to have an accident on the road. So it can be dangerous as well. So you don't want to be too covetous with what you've saved up. You do need to learn how to spend. Okay? Now, do you have any idea what a person can do to motivate them to spend if they don't want to part with their money at all?
If they don't want to spend, I would say they could find a hobby where they can spend money for or give to the poor.
Yeah. And that leads into charity. Charity is a very...
These flies, can they get out of the house?
Okay. That leads into charity. Charity is a very powerful word, and if you read the Bible at all, you know it's a very special word, okay? A good definition of charity is why don't you give us a definition of charity?
Charity, I'll say, is giving with love, like giving with all your heart and not thinking anything and just giving with love.
Yeah, very
what I'll
good.
say.
Yeah, I think a good definition is when you give something to someone out of the kindness of your heart with no strings attached. The Bible says, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. So when you give someone out of charity, you're giving it out of the kindness of your heart with no strings attached. You're not doing it to puff yourself up. You're not doing it out of envy. You're doing it out of a forgiving heart. You're doing it out of a patient heart. You're doing it strictly for that one person to help that person out or those people out. And charity is such a powerful thing. The Bible says it's the greatest thing a person can do. It's even better than faith, better than hope, better than sacrifice, even better than knowledge. So it's very powerful. And the great thing about it is it will destroy covetousness.
Yeah.
Covetousness is when you desire something so much, you're not willing to part with it, or you're desiring something that you cannot have, and so forth. So it can destroy that. So a great thing to do if you're having a hard time spending is to give to someone out of charity, whether it's a family member, a loved one, organization, or whatever. And the golden rule is to not only do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but also it's more blessed to give than to receive.
Yeah.
And when you give to someone something out of the bottom of your heart, oftentimes you become more excited about that gift than they might even give you. And
it makes you feel, at least that's what it makes me feel so good. It's just glad that God has provided for you to be able to give someone else. There's that thing that just makes you glad and makes you look forward. And when you see that person enjoying whatever that you gave them, it actually really makes you feel like, thank you, Lord. At least that's what it makes me feel.
Yeah, and oftentimes when you do that and you see how much good you do with it, it makes perfect sense for you to say, well, I'm going to do something good unto myself. I'm going to buy myself a better car.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to, add on to my house.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to get new plumbing or whatever. Mm-hmm. It makes it, quite obvious that you need to be able to start spending for yourself. So when you give unto others, then also makes perfect sense, especially if you have the money to do unto yourself as well. Okay?
Yeah.
Here's a good illustration I think ties it up. Now, have you heard of a monkey trap?
Monkey trap? No, I don't know.
I was hoping to see if this was even true or if you even heard of this, because I heard a motivational speaker once talk about coveting wealth and things like that. And he talked about monkey traps. So apparently there's people who go out and hunt monkeys. I don't know why they would hunt monkeys, but they do. And a common trap is to take a coconut and make it hollow, carve it out hollow, and bore a hole into it just large enough for that monkey to put his hand into it. And so what they do is, how do you motivate a monkey to put his hand into an empty coconut? You put something that he likes in there, like some sort of food or whatever. So he puts his hand into it, grabs a hold of that food. Now that hole is too small for his hand and the food to come out at the same time. So he starts doing one of these things and he can't get the food out. But the funny thing is, if that coconut oftentimes is tied to a rope, tied around a tree, and those hunters are hiding behind the bushes, and when that monkey sees those hunters coming, he knows that he's in trouble, but for whatever reason, according to that monkey's behavior, he will not let that fruit go.
Oh, wow.
He has trapped himself. And oftentimes, I guess he gets beaten with clubs or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the story I heard
Wow.
from this motivational speaker. And I looked it up on the internet, and there's other testimonies out there as well. But because of his covetousness, he's not willing to let go. So he kind of kills himself by his own covetousness because he's hanging on to it.
Also, I'm sorry. Isn't that also how the Bible teaches that thou fool, people that lay treasures for themselves without even knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, whatever. The Lord looks at them like, thou fool, why do you even do that? Even that illustration is there in the Bible, that laying up treasures for yourself without even knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. What if tomorrow you have an accident? What if tomorrow you just die from heart attack? What if something happens like that and you've been hoarding all this wealth and stuff. So I actually think that even the monkey, that illustration shows the importance of having a balance in between the two.
Yeah. And so the greatest, and to break that covetousness is by doing an act of charity. And, like I said, charity is a very powerful thing. It's the greatest thing a person can do. It's even better than faith, hope, knowledge, and sacrifice. And when you do that charity, it almost be like that monkey letting go and having freedom. Freedom in his life. So if we want to have healthy finances, not only must we be able to save, but we must be able to spend as well. And what do you do if you have a hard time saving? Well, you go on a budget, calculate your net worth, and so forth. What do you do if you're kind of covetous with what you have a hard time spending? Well, you do an act of charity, whether it's for a relative, loved one, or organization, and that will oftentimes break hold and allow you to have freedom. So what are the two things you must have, the two money tools you must have to have powerful finances? You must be able to spend
mindfully,
and you must be able to save
mindfully too, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that.
Good. So we hope that was a good message. Hopefully you learned something out of it. And if you're having a hard time saving, please check out that video that we did on budgeting. And then hopefully pretty soon I'll have a message on net worth, which is the first step of planning your retirement. And hopefully we'll see you soon. God bless.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you are doing both. We've been implementing all these because we had a problem of budgeting in the past. I mean, you guys, if you watched our videos, we were once in a debt, but we were able to get out of that. Now we are starting to work. So it's a work in progress. It's something that we work with others. And I mean, for example, I'm working with my husband. If you have a spouse or a family, you can actually do that. Let me know in the comments if you are doing both or if you are struggling with one or the other, because I have some rich people watching us in our channel. So that probably have a problem with spending their money. So I hope this video was helpful. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new for financial tips and all those saving money tips. Yeah.
Take care.